right, let's see here. Get everything set up here. Slay. Wait for people to trickle in before we get started. This is Mr. G coming to you live from his home for Laura Haviland Middle School. Read aloud. Good to see everybody. Hopefully all of you are able to join us here today. Got some things we need to talk about. Hoping to have a conversation with you guys about some of those things. We need to pick a new book for us to read. So hopefully we can get all that decided before we get started. All right. I don't know. I can follow along in the chat on my phone. So I saw some of you guys casted a few votes on Dojo. Hopefully we can get a few more here in the chat so we could decide what our next book is, because we did finish Evil Spy School. Seemed like that was a pretty popular book with everybody. Everybody seemed to like that book. Saw a lot of comments of so-and-so loved it. So-and-so has been glued to the videos. I liked hearing that, those sorts of things. You know, this was a pretty popular book when we started it. It's been a very popular series in our room, especially over the last, I read the first book, read the second book a few months ago. Book one was the book that I started the year for our Read Aloud. Started reading Spy School, the first book. So I'm glad to see that the Spy School series seems to be very much still a popular book in Mr. G's middle school room at Laura Haviland. I figure for those of you that might be on the fence about what book you want to pick, I figured I could talk about each book that I have. That way that might inform your guys' decision. I know one of the books that I shared was that, I could read Holes to you guys. I know you guys watched the film adaptation of this during lunch, I want to say a couple weeks before we closed for the COVID-19 quarantine for social distancing. I know that was a movie, one of the many movies you guys watched during lunchtime. And a lot of you guys said, is there a book? And I said, yes, there is a book. So if you guys recall the movie, it follows Stanley Yelnats and about the curse of the Yelnats family and about the fact that he has to spend a summer at Camp Green Lake digging a hole every day. It's a pretty good book. Seemed to be a really popular movie. The movie was pretty good, was pretty true to the book, but that is one of the choices. Another choice, I do have the next book in the Spy School series, is Spy Ski School. I'll kind of read the synopsis here on the back cover to kind of give you guys a picture of what this book will be about. At Spy School, the slopes and the stakes get really steep. 13-year-old Ben Ripley is not exactly the best student at Spy School has ever seen. He keeps flunking advanced self-preservation. But outside of class, Ben's been pretty great at staying alive. His enemies have kidnapped him, shot at him, locked him in a room with a ticking bomb, and even tried to blow him up with missiles. And he survived every time. After all that unexpected success, the CIA has decided to activate Ben for real on a high-stakes mission at a glamorous ski resort. Ben might not be able to handle a weapon or a pair of skis, but he can make friends easy peasy. That is, until his best friend from home drops in on the trip and jeopardizes the entire mission. So that is the brief synopsis about Spy Ski School. I know there were a couple votes for this book from a couple of you guys that voted. Another book that I have is the second book in the Fun Jungle series. You guys recall Belly Up, which followed the kid Teddy Fitzroy, who lives at the zoo/theme park called Fun Jungle, which is in Texas. He had to investigate in the first book, Belly Up, the death of their mascot, Henry the Hippo. Well, he's investigating something else in Poached, and as you could tell from the cute little koala that's on the cover, it's going to be a mystery involving a koala at Fun Jungle. Here is what the synopsis says for this. Kazoo the koala is missing, and Teddy Fitzroy is the primary suspect. The only way Teddy can clear his name is to crack the case and bring Kazoo back home to Fun Jungle where he belongs, all the while staying clear of Vance the bully. Otherwise, Teddy will be shipped off to juvie as a convicted koala napper. A little bit shorter synopsis about that book. I know Belly Up was also a popular book. I guess we like Stuart Gibbs books on our rim. He's a good writer. He definitely seems to capture the imagination of young kids. And the last book, oh, surprise, it's another Stuart Gibbs book, but it's a series I haven't read to you guys yet. And to be quite honest, it's a series I have yet to read myself. So, this book is called Space Case, part of Stuart Gibbs's Moonbase Alpha series. Again, it's another mystery book. It follows a kid who's living with his family on the first colony that has been established on the moon. So the synopsis starts something like this. Life on the moon is a snooze. You wouldn't think it, but being one of the first kids to live on the moon colony, it isn't all that it's cracked up to be. You're stuck inside a small base with only a few other kids, and you're not even allowed to go for a low-gravity romp on the moon's surface. What's the point? But 12-year-old Dashell Gibson's life gets a jolt when a lunar scientist turns up dead. Dash suspects foul play, but no one believes him. Is there a moon maniac on the loose? And what is he or she trying to hide? So it's a murder mystery here in Space Case. So I know I had at least 2 votes that were for Spy Ski School. I had 1 vote for Holes, and then I had another vote for Poached. If you guys have not voted yet, please type your response in the chat. Say which book that you think sounds best to you, and then we could maybe try to narrow it down. Sounds like so far, based on the votes I have, that it would be Spy Ski School. But if you haven't made your vote, please type it in the chat right now, and I could take that into account, and I can add it to our vote tally here, and I can keep track of it. Honestly, all 4 books sound pretty good. I'm kind of leaning toward myself, Space Case, because I haven't read this book yet. I would love to hear what this book is about, but if you guys want Spy Ski School, I can't blame you there. I just got to warn you, the books that I just showed you are the only other 4 books I was able to get out of the classroom, and I was allowed to go back to it last week. So these will be the last 4 books that I'll have to possibly read aloud to you guys that are from the room. I do have a couple books that are on my own personal bookshelf back behind me that I could pull out, but okay, so Zeke voted for the next Spy School book. I am not surprised by that, Zeke. You're one that very much is in line with that book. It's a good choice. So I guess with 3 votes, I guess. So, if you guys recall the end of Evil Spy School, we have Murray Hill that's on the loose. He was not captured by the CIA, though the CIA was able to arrest the 2 other Evil Spy School students that Ben came into contact with. Ashley Sparks, the gymnast, who seems to have a real axe to grind for not making the U.S. gymnastics team. I guess she seems to think that the judge didn't see her stick a landing, and it cost her the spot on the team. And then we had the boy Nefarious, who seemed to be very, what's a polite way that I could say it? Didn't seem to quite fit in very well with any group of people. Seemed to be very much the one that was made fun of by others. And that's why he turned to crime. But if we recall, Nefarious is the one that helped Ben stop the missiles from striking those bridges in New York. He was very much decided to turn from being the villain or the heel, and he turned face. He became the hero of the story. So we kind of ended with those two being taken into custody. We ended with Ben and Erica kind of establishing that they're friends now. Erica seems to be warming up to the idea of, that friends aren't liabilities anymore, that, they can be helpful on missions and they're not a liability. So why don't we get started then? We'll pick up with Spy Ski's school. Oh, look at this, guys. I can actually show you guys this in the video, which I couldn't really do very well in the room. Look at that. That is the map of the ski complex that our story will eventually start taking place in. It's called the Lion's Head Village. It's a ski lodge. Looks like in the state of Colorado. That's where you would find most of these kind of high-end places are out in Colorado, which makes sense because of the Rocky Mountains. And just like the last book, it always starts and ends with a letter that has some bits of information that are redacted. So I will read our letter. It's dated December 4th, so it's been a few months since Evil Spy School. We're not sure who it's from because the intended address has been redacted. Given the evidence that you have provided, the review committee has sanctioned Operation Snow Bunny for immediate deployment. The Academy of Espionage students, redacted and redacted, have both been approved for this operation with the option to activate additional operatives if needed. However, the committee would also like to make it clear that it has serious reservations about using such young agents on the mission for this caliber. It is only the absolute necessity of redacted and the unfortunate failure of our previous operations to do so that has led us to sanction this. Should these young agents not be up to the task, should they fail due to their inexperience, the burden of this failure will be placed squarely on your shoulders. The CIA will disavow any knowledge that, and all of it's been redacted, or that, again, redacted, in order to maintain the secrecy of, and of course, redacted. Enclosed is the attached dossier. You will find the plane tickets, ski passes, and forms for reimbursement of expenses. Good luck on your mission, and God bless America. We don't know the person's name because it's been redacted, but their title is CIA Director of Operations. That is written this letter. There's also a postscript note. P.S. There is a restaurant in redacted called Hansel and Gretel that has excellent fondue. Check it out while you're there. Destroy this document immediately after reading. So, if you guys are familiar with the Mission Impossible movies, that kind of falls in line that, you got to destroy the letter, whereas in Mission Impossible, the message self-destructed itself in X amount of seconds. So we're going to pick up with Chapter 1. Hey, look. Our guy now has skis. How fitting. Bushnell Hall, CIA Academy of Espionage in Washington, D.C. It is December 6th, so 2 days after the letter that I just read. And it's 11:30 in the morning. The summons to the principal's office arrived in the middle of my advanced self-preservation class. Normally, I would have been pleased to have an excuse to get out of ASP, as it was my worst subject. I was only getting a C in it, even though in real life I had been quite good at self-preservation. Over the past 11 months, my enemies had kidnapped me, shot at me, locked me in a room with a ticking bomb, and even tried to blow me up with missiles. And yet, I survived each time. However, my instructors at the CIA Academy of Espionage never seemed very impressed by the fact that I was still alive. They just kept giving me bad grades. There's a big difference between running a ray and being able to defend yourself, my ASP instructor, Professor Simon, had explained shortly before the call from the principal came. Professor Georgia Simon was in her 50s and looked like someone my mother would have played Cadasta with. And she was an incredible warrior capable of beating 3 karate masters in a fight at once. Pretty impressive. So far, all you have done in the field is run. It's worked pretty well for me so far, I countered. You've been lucky, Professor Simon said. And then she attacked me with a samurai sword. It was only a fake sword, but it was still daunting. The Academy had stopped using real swords a few years earlier, after a student had been literally disarmed in class. I did my best to defend myself, but it was only 20 seconds before I was sprawled on the floor with Professor Simon standing over me, sword raised, ready to sushi kebab my spleen, which was all the more embarrassing as it happened in front of the entire class. ASP took place in a large lecture hall. My fellow classmates were seated in the tiers around me, watching me get my butt kicked by a woman 4 times my age. Pathetic, Professor Simon declared. That's D-grade work at best. Would anyone here like to show Mr. Ripley how a real agent defends himself? No one volunteered. My fellow second-year students weren't idiots. None of them wanted to be embarrassed like I had been. Or hurt. Luckily for them, at that moment, the announcement from the principal came over the school's public system, distracting Professor Simon. There were plenty of others, far less outdated ways to deliver urgent messages to classrooms at Spy School, but the principal didn't know how to use any of them. In fact, he wasn't very good using the PA system either. There were a few seconds of fumbling noises, followed by the principal muttering, I can never remember which switch works, this stupid thing. This darn system's a bigger pain in the rear than my hemorrhoids. And then he asked, Hello? Hello? Is this thing on? Can you hear me? Professor Simon sighed in the way that suggested she had even less respect for the principal than she had for me. Yes, we can hear you. Very good, the principal replied. Is Benjamin Ripley in your class right now? I need to see him in my office right away. A chorus of oohs rippled from the room, the universal middle school response to realizing when someone else has just gotten in trouble. If you guys recall, last time Ben was in the principal's office, he was expelled from spy school for blowing up his office. Who knows what's going to happen now? Professor Simon gave the class a warning glare, and the oohs immediately stopped. Man, maybe I need to work on that. Get that stern face, man. Ooh. I'll send him right now, she replied. Then she looked down at me and said, Go. I leapt to my feet and hurried for the door, pausing only to snatch my backpack from my seat. Zoe Zabel, one of my best friends, was in the next seat over. She looked at me inquisitively with her big green eyes, wanting to know if I knew why I had been summoned. I just shrugged in return. Next to Zoe, Warren Reeves snickered at my misfortune. Warren didn't like me much. He had a crush on Zoe and saw me as the competition. So he was always rooting for my downfall. Man, Warren kind of sucks, man. Not a very good wingman. I made a show of hustling out the door for Professor Simon and promptly slowed down the moment I was out of her sight. I was in absolutely no hurry to get to the principal's office. I had been summoned to the principal's office 4 other times, and it had always been for bad news. Previously, the principal had sent me to solitary confinement, placed me on probation, and informed me that my summer vacation plans had been canceled in favor of mandatory wilderness training, and expelled me from school. I had been reinstated, however, so I dawdled, wondering what trouble lay in store for me this time. I exited the Bushnell Hall and entered the Hammond Quadrangle, and on my way to the Nathan Hale Administration Building. It was the week after Thanksgiving. Fall had been mild and beautiful in Washington, D.C., and now winter had arrived with vengeance. Frigid winds were stripping the trees bare of leaves, and a crust of icy snow had carpeted the grounds. As I meandered across the quad, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Erica. "Stop dawdling and get your butt up here. We're waiting." I stared up at the Gothic Hale building, wondering if Erica was watching me or if she simply knew me well enough to presume I was waddling. Either was likely a possibility. Erica was only a fourth-year student, but she was easily the best spy in training at school. However, she had a head start on the rest of us. She was a legacy. The very building I was heading toward was named after her family. Her ancestors had all been spies for the U.S. When had been learning how to assemble Legos, she had been learning how to assemble semi-automatic machine guns, blindfolded. I picked up my pace, hurried toward the Hale building. If Erica was waiting for me with the principal, that probably meant I was in trouble. Plus, I was excited to see her. I had a massive crush on Erica Hale. She was the most beautiful, intelligent, and dangerous girl I had ever met in my life. I knew Erica didn't like me nearly as much as I liked her, but the fact that she liked me even a little bit was a big deal. Erica regarded most of her fellow students and professors with complete disinterest, as though they were rocks. And not even pretty rocks, boring gray rocks. Gravel. Even though her text to me had been curt and cold, it was still a text from her, which was more human contact than Erica usually parceled out. There were plenty of guys at school who would have killed to get a text from Erica Hale. I burst into the Hale building and took the stairs up to the 5th floor, 2 at a time. The security guard stationed there quickly waved me through to the restricted area. "Come right in, Mr. Ripley," one said. "We've been expecting you." I stopped and spread my arms and legs for the standard frisking by the second guard and shook his head. "No need for that. They want to see you ASAP." She pointed toward the door. This was a different door than the usual one for the principal's office. A piece of paper was taped on it. It said "Principal." Giving the misspelling, I figured the principal had written it himself. The principal was very likely the least intelligent person in the entire intelligence community. We had a lot of decent teachers at school, most of whom had been decent spies earlier in their careers. Meanwhile, the principal had been a horrible spy. He had failed on every single mission. No one wanted him teaching anyone anything, so he was made the administrator instead. He mostly handled paperwork that no one else wanted to deal with. The principal wasn't using his normal office because I blew it up by firing a mortar round into it. It was an accident. The damage had been extensive, and since the government was in charge of the repairs, they were taking a very long time. The official completion date was set for 3 years in the future. But even that was probably optimistic. My dormitory had been waiting to have its septic system replaced since before the Berlin Wall fell. In the meantime, the principal had moved down the hall into a closet. It was a rather large closet, but it was still a closet. Given the pungent smell of ammonia, I presumed that it had recently that until recently cleaning supplies had been stored in there. Instead of a nice big imposing desk, the principal now had a card table. He sat behind it in a creaky folding chair, glowering at me beneath the world's most horrendous hairpiece. It looked like a raccoon had died on his head and then been run over by a truck. The closet would have been crowded enough with only the principal and me, but there were 3 other people crammed in there as well, waiting for me. All of them were Hales. Erica stood beside her father, Alexander, and her grandfather, Cyrus. Alexander Hale had been an extremely respected spy for years, despite the fact that he was a complete fraud. The agency had finally caught on and kicked him out, but he had subsequently proved himself on an unsanctioned mission and had been reinstated. Now he was back to his usual debonair self, wearing a tailored 3-piece suit and a perfectly folded handkerchief and a crisply knotted tie. Meanwhile, Cyrus Hale was the real deal, as good of a spy as there was in the CIA. Even though he was in his 70s, he had been retired, but had recently reactivated himself. Cyrus didn't bother with the fancy suits, which he had considered impractical. Instead, he wore warm-ups, sneakers, and a fanny pack. He looked like he was about to go walk around the mall for exercise. Erica wore her standard black outfit, her standard utility belt, and her standard bored expression. She barely glanced at me when I came in. Nice of you to finally join us. Sorry I kept you waiting. I realized the closet didn't have a window, which meant Erica hadn't seen me dawdling. She simply knew I was. No worries, Benjamin, Alexander said cheerfully. I just got here myself. That's not exactly something you should be proud of, Cyrus told him disapprovingly, seeing as you were supposed to be here a half hour ago. Alexander winced the way he usually did when his father dressed him down, then tried to save face. I was doing some important prep work for this mission. What mission? I asked. In the cramped closet, there was barely room to move. What's going on? You're being activated, Alexander announced excitedly. Cyrus grimaced, as though Alexander had said something he wasn't supposed to say. What? The principal snapped to his feet, flabbergasted, obviously unaware of this news. You're activating this little twerp for a real mission? It wouldn't make much sense for us to activate him for a fake mission, now would it? Cyrus asked. Well, he can't go, the principal declared childishly. He blew up my office. Cyrus exhaled slowly, trying to be patient. As I have explained to you multiple times, that was not entirely Ripley's doing. It was a setup to make our enemies at Spider believe he had actually been expelled, so they'd recruit him. He nearly killed me, the principal protested, immune to Cyrus's logic. It's bad enough that I had to take him back here as a student. He was instrumental in thwarting Spider's plans, Alexander pointed out. But now you're going to send him out into the field again? The principal railed. He hasn't even been at the academy for a year yet. He's not qualified for the field. He is, said Cyrus. He's proved it. But, the principal began. It doesn't matter if you agree with me on this, Cyrus interrupted, because the chief of the CIA agrees with me. And he's the one who authorizes the missions, not you. The only reason we're even having this meeting here is that as the principal of this institution, you officially have to be informed when students are being sent into the field. If there had been any place to sit down in the office, I would have sat down. It was surprising enough to hear that I had been activated by the CIA. I was completely floored to hear Cyrus defend me. Cyrus didn't give out praise easily. In fact, fact, it was a good bet that he'd never given any to Alexander at all. The principal sank back into his folding chair, glowering even harder at me. I tried to avoid his gaze, shifting my attention to Erica instead. You're being activated too? Erica arched an eyebrow at me, but didn't say anything. I mean, you're here, I explained. And your grandfather is here. Your grandfather just said students were being activated. So it's not only me. Excellent deductive work as usual, Alexander pronounced, patting me on the back. You're right. Erica will also be on assignment, as well as my father and I. Erica's expression hadn't changed. I had no idea if she was pleased with any of this or not. She might as well have just been told that she needed a root canal. I was pleased, though. Even more than pleased. The idea of being on an assignment with Erica was thrilling. In the first place, there was no one I trusted more. Second, it meant I now had an excuse to spend a lot of the time with her. In theory, I should have had plenty of other excuses to spend time with Erica, seeing as we both went to the same top-secret boarding school. But Erica could be as cold and distant as Antarctica. While the other kids at school bonded over pickup games of Capture the Flag or James Bond movie marathons, Erica kept to herself. Even though I was considered her closest friend on campus, that didn't mean very much. As a few months before, at the end of our last mission, when we were both doped up on painkillers after nearly being vaporized by a missile, Erica said a few nice things to me and held my hand. But since then, she had behaved as though that had never happened. There had been weeks when she hadn't so much as glanced at me. So I was excited for the excuse to hang out with her, even one where my life might be in danger. As far as I was concerned, it was worth the risk. What's the mission? I asked. Cyrus produced a sealed manila envelope from the inner pocket of his warm-up jacket and handed it to me. It was labeled Operation Snow Bunny, stamped for your eyes only. My heart leapt. Getting an honest-to-God for your eyes only manila envelope in spy school was like being named king of the homecoming in a regular school. I broke open the seal and found several photographs inside. They were extremely grainy, as though they had been taken from long distance with a telephoto lenses. The first was of a Chinese man with a close-cropped hair wearing sunglasses. That is Liu Sheng, Cyrus told me. He is one of the richest men in China, worth billions. What's he do? I asked. We have no idea, Cyrus admitted. The truth is we know almost nothing about him, where he grew up, how much education he has, what he owns. He simply appeared on the scene 5 years ago, loaded with cash. Erica shifted closer to me to get a better look at the photos. As usual, she smelled incredible, a combination of lilacs and gunpowder. She stared at the pictures in the way that suggested she'd never seen them before, which was unusual. Normally, Erica knew everything way before I did. I wondered why Cyrus hadn't shared these with her yet. Anyone with an untraceable background and that much money is suspicious, Cyrus continued. So the CIA has tried to investigate him. However, the man has the tightest security I have ever come across. His organization is impossible to infiltrate. He keeps himself cloistered, interacting with only a few select people, each of whom is also extremely well protected. We've been trying to get an agent close to him for years, with virtually no success. Why? Erica asked. It was only the second time she had spoken since I had entered the room. If he's a Chinese criminal, that's China's problem, isn't it? We have our reasons to believe his crimes are not merely limited to China, Cyrus replied. He seems to be plotting something in the U.S. The last agent who investigated him reported he's working on a scheme known as Operation Golden Fist. What's that? I asked. We don't know, Cyrus confessed. Our agent was able to learn any more before he was uncovered and the mission was terminated. However, in his final transmission to us, he indicated suspicions that Gold Fist might be a level 11 threat. Erica stiffened slightly in response to this, which was her exceptional, calm way of expressing great concern. Level 11? What's that? I asked. Well, Erica replied, a level 10 threat would be extreme, causing the most chaos and damage and destruction you can imagine. A level 11 threat is even worse. I gulped, unsettled by the thought of this. Given this, it's critical importance that we determine what Golden Fist is, Cyrus said. That's where you kids come in. Us? I gasped. How are we supposed to get close to this guy when the entire CIA hasn't been able to do it? Because everyone has a kink in their armor, Cyrus explained. No man is an island, and Li Sheng's weakness is his daughter, Jessica. I shifted to the next photo. It was of a Chinese girl about my age. It was even grainier than the first one. So bad that I could barely make out anything about her except that she had hair. She appeared to be either baking a pie or holding a cat. You want us to get close to her? Erica said. Exactly, Alexander cried. Liu Sheng might be suspicious of any adult who tries to get near him, but we doubt he'd ever suspect a teenager would be a CIA agent. If you could get close to Jessica, you might be able to get close to her father. All right, I'll do it, Erica said. It won't be easy, but I can handle it. With just a few hours of extensive makeup, I could pass myself as Chinese. If you give me the proper identification, I can then insert myself as a new student at Jessica's school. A flicker of unease passed between Cyrus and Alexander, as though there was a subject both of them were afraid to broach. Finally, Cyrus seemed to realize he would have to do it. He cleared his throat and said, Erica, you're not the one we're assigning to get close to Jessica. Erica's eyes narrowed angrily. Ben is the primary agent on this? You must be joking. Cyrus signaled her to calm down. Sweetheart, the objective here is to befriend Jessica. And the key to making friends with someone is actually being, well, friendly. You have a lot of wonderful qualities, but being nice to other people is not one of them. Other people are usually idiots, Erica muttered. See what I mean? Cyrus asked. That attitude is exactly what I'm talking about. Now, when it comes to espionage, I know you have tremendous talents. While Ben here doesn't have many at all, hey, I said, but he is good at making friends, Cyrus went on. People like him. And that's nothing to sneeze at, which is why he's going to be the primary agent on this operation, while you'll be his main handler. He was the primary agent, though, on the last mission, Erica snapped. And I was his handler then. He's barely had any training. Well, I've been studying for this since I was a baby. I've learned things too, I protested. Erica fixed her angry gaze now on me. I could speak fluent Chinese in Mandarin and Wu dialects. Can you speak fluent Chinese? No, I confessed meekly, but I can order dinner in a Chinese restaurant. Great, Erica growled. When you meet Jessica Sheng, you could ask her for some egg rolls. I'm sure that'll go over very well. That's enough, Cyrus told her. Erica then fell silent. She was obviously still angry, though, which was unsettling. Erica rarely displayed much emotion at all. She was normally as calm and relaxed as a person at a day spa, even in the midst of a gunfight, but now she was so upset, it felt as though the room was heating up around her. The decision was not made to insult you, Cyrus informed her. It's made because it has to be because it was in the best interest of the country. If you can't handle that, I'm sure we could find another student that's willing to be Ben's handler. Erica shifted her glare to her grandfather. You know there's no one here better than me. Welcome aboard, then, Cyrus said. Now, here's the skinny. In a few weeks, the Shangs are actually leaving China for the first time in as long as we've been tracking them. Better yet, they're coming to the U.S. Jessica Shang wants to learn how to ski. They can't do that in China? The principal asked. They have snow there, don't they? Of course they have snow, Cyrus said curtly. However, their resorts aren't nearly as good as ours yet. So Jessica wants to go to Colorado. Vail, to be specific. They've already rented a hotel there, and a hotel room, I corrected. What? Cyrus asked. You said they rented a hotel, I told him, instead of hotel room. That wasn't a mistake, Cyrus. They rented the entire hotel. For one family? I asked, stunned. Actually, Alexander said, Mrs. Shang isn't coming. We're not sure why, but we suspect that she's even more secretive than her husband. Or maybe she just doesn't like cold weather. So they rented an entire hotel for only 2 people, I asked, even more stunned. Plus their security staff, which is quite large, Alexander explained. Liu Shang doesn't like being around strangers. Like we said, he's very rich. Still, Erica said, if he's so cautious, why is he coming to America at all? He must suspect the CIA is tracking him. We've been wondering that ourselves. Our best guess is that the ski vacation is a cover for Operation Golden Fist. So this doesn't have anything to do with Spider, I asked. Why should it? Cyrus replied in a way that suggested my question had been idiotic. Well, Spider's kind of been our main enemy, isn't it? I mean, every time I've confronted an evil organization, it's been that one. The U.S. has lots of enemies, Cyrus informed me, including hundreds you've never heard of. And we haven't heard a peep out of Spider since their headquarters blew up. That was a huge setback for them, financially and organizationally. So perhaps there's a chance they're out of the game. I guess, I said. Though I didn't believe it. Spider wasn't the type of evil organization that would quit being evil after a few setbacks. We never captured most of the high-ranking members or even figured out the real identities of any of them. Now, Liu Shang might be only one man, Cyrus told me, but he controls an empire that appears to be just as powerful and dangerous as Spider. Perhaps even more powerful and dangerous. If he is truly plotting something with a level 11 potential for danger and destruction, there are many possible targets in the Rocky Mountains. The U.S. government has dozens of extremely critical facilities there. The headquarters of the North American Aerospace Defense, Strategic Missile Command, and the Air Force Academy. Central Food and Seed Reserve, Alexander suggested helpfully. Cyrus frowned disdainfully at this, but he didn't discount it either. Shang could be targeting any one of them, or something else entirely. It is imperative that we find out what, and that we do it quickly. Which is why you need to get close to Jessica Shang, Benjamin. How am I supposed to do that? I asked, unable to hide how daunted I felt. I won't even be able to get to her hotel. You'll be attending the spy school with her. That's my ski school, Alexander explained. Liu Shang originally enrolled her in a private lessons, but those were recently changed to group lessons. We're not sure why, but we assume that was Jessica's doing. That doesn't make any sense, Erica muttered. Why would anyone want a private lessons? In a public lessons, you could have be around other people. We suspect that might be the whole idea. Leo has kept Jessica very cloistered her whole life, so perhaps she's chafing at that. He gave Erica a pointed look. Sometimes teenage girls like to challenge authority. Erica rolled her eyes. Whatever the case, Cyrus went on, we have an opportunity here. We've already been in touch with the Vail Ski School, and they have agreed to enroll both of you in the same class as Jessica. He turned to me. Do you have any experience snow skiing? No, I conceded. Excellent, Cyrus said to my surprise. Neither does Jessica. You'll both be beginners. That will give you something to bond over right there. Erica will also be enrolled with you, as she has never skied either. Really? I asked, stunned. Erica could do everything from martial arts to safe cracking to infiltrating enemy compounds, so it was hard to believe there wasn't anything she hadn't tried, yet alone mastered. It hasn't been a priority, Erica explained, then turned to her grandfather. And what happens if Jessica decides to bond with someone else in the class other than Ben? We've already taken that into account. The other students in the class will be under orders not to befriend her. How? I asked. You can't give a bunch of random kids orders like that. As I spoke, however, I noticed Erica sighing as though I was being dense. It took me another moment to realize what she had figured out instantly. Unless they're not a bunch of random kids. Exactly, Alexander said. Some of your classmates are going to be activated also. Now, wait a second, the principal barked. Even more of my students are being put in the field? Who else is coming? I asked. We haven't decided that yet, Cyrus told me. We'd like input from the both of you before building the team. We want to make sure that you're surrounded by people that you can trust. A smile spread across my face. Not only was I being activated as a primary agent for an official mission, but I get to bring some of my friends along as well. And Erica would be there too. Sure, she was upset at the moment, but once she cooled down, I looked forward to working with her. And at a ski resort, no less. I had heard those places were chock full of hot tubs and roaring fireplaces, all of which sounded very romantic. When does this mission begin? Liu Shang scheduled the vacation over his daughter's winter break, Cyrus reported. That coincides with our break here as well. You'll be enrolled in ski school at Vale for a week, beginning the day after Christmas. My smile spread even further. My family hadn't made any plans for winter break. I feared I was going to be spending it stuck at home, staring at walls. Ski vacation sounded 1,000 times better. It's not going to be a vacation, Erica said, reading my thoughts. I turned to her, trying to conceal my surprise. That is not what I was thinking. That's exactly what you were thinking, she said testily. You were smiling like you just won the lottery. Well, this isn't going to be fun. It's going to be dangerous, extremely dangerous. Grandpa and my father have been sugarcoating things. Liu Xing is far more vicious than they've let on. I know all about him. How? Alexander asked. I'm studying to be a spy. It's my job to know things. Erica turned back to me. The reason Liu Shang is so hard to get close to is that he tends to kill everyone he's suspicious of. Like a poor sap who learned about the Operation Golden Fist. The reason the mission was terminated was because the agent got terminated. And he probably wasn't the first we've lost. She looked to Cyrus and Alexander accusingly. Cyrus held her gaze, not giving anything away, but Alexander averted his eyes, indicating Erica had guessed the truth. Erica returned her attention to me. So while this might sound like a dream vacation, we're being sent to the lion's den here. And believe me, Liu Shang's going to be doubly suspicious of anyone trying to get close to his only daughter. I'll do all I can to protect you as your handler, but you better bring your A game on this mission, because if you screw this up, we're going to end up dead. With that, she stormed out and slammed the door behind her. I looked back to the others in the cramped room. Cyrus simply nodded his agreement, displeased that Erica had spoken the way she had, but not about to lie to me either. Alexander gave me an apologetic shrug. Now the principal was the one smiling. Apparently, he was quite pleased at the thought that I might die. Suddenly, being a part of Operation Snowbuddy was no longer seemed like such a great idea. Let's see. Well, I still have a few minutes where I could stream. I'll at least start Chapter 2 for you guys. Chapter 2, Memorization. We're at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. It is still September 9th, but it is now 4:30 in the afternoon. That stinks, Mike Brzezinski said. I know, I admitted. It does. Not for you, it doesn't, Mike argued. You get to go skiing. And for the whole winter break, meanwhile, I'm going to be stuck here by myself. You said you were going to be around. I thought I was, but something came up. Mike angrily snapped a twig off of a tree and threw it into the panda exhibit. You weren't supposed to throw things into the zoo exhibits, but Mike never had been one for following rules. It probably didn't matter, though. The pandas weren't inside because it was freezing. I had just told Mike about my ski trip, or at least I told him as much as I was allowed to, that my school had approved an all-expense-paid trip to Vail over winter break. CIA had told my parents the exact same story. Neither Mike nor my parents nor any civilians even knew that the spy school existed. Instead, they believed I attended St. Smithson's Science Academy for Boys and Girls, an elite boarding school in D.C. For a few weeks while I'd been undercover at Spider's Evil Spy School, everyone had believed I had left St. Smithson's for Weissman's Preparatory Academy. But now that Weissman was a smoking crater in the ground, I had been reaccepted at St. Smithson's. We were at the National Zoo because it was close to my campus and it was free. Neither Mike nor I had enough cash to even buy ourselves slices of pizza. I had hoped that breaking the bad news face-to-face would go over better than a call or a text. But it had been the case. That hadn't been the case at all. How does Smarty Pants Science School score a ski trip anyway? Mike said. You guys don't even have any sports teams. And suddenly you're taking up skiing? There's lots of science in skiing, I pointed out. Friction, wind resistance, aerodynamics. Punts were participating in a survey of the snowpack to analyze climate change. Wow, Mike muttered. You guys can't even make something as cool as skiing sound dorky. I sighed. Not being able to tell Mike the truth about my training was one of the worst things about spy school. Although it was nearly as bad as the fact that people had tried to kill me on a regular basis. Throughout our lives, Mike had always been cool, and I hadn't. And now I was doing amazing stuff, cool stuff like thwarting evil plots and saving the president's life. But I had to keep it all a secret. I hated lying to my best friend. I wasn't exactly thrilled that he thought I was a dork. Maybe we could see each other on Christmas Day, I suggested. Well, like that'll happen. Mike threw another twig into the panda exhibit, then stalked off toward the elephant house. I raced after him. What's that supposed to mean? You're never around anymore. First, you transferred from our school to St. Smarty's. Then, instead of coming home for the summer, you went to nerd camp. And after that, you said you were transferring back to our old school, but you were only there for a few hours before you transferred back out again. Now you're ditching me over winter break, too. At least Elizabeth will still be around, I suggested, meaning Elizabeth Pasternak, Mike's girlfriend and the hottest girl at my old school. I broke up with her, Mike said. What? Why? Mike shrugged. I just wasn't into her. That's how cool Mike was. He broke up with the most popular girl at school, not the other way around. Or at least he was claiming he broke up with her. I wondered if Elizabeth really ended it, and Mike is actually angry about that rather than me. But then there was a good chance he was truly angry at me. After all, if Mike had treated me the way I'd been treating him, even though I wasn't doing it on purpose, I would have been upset too. We passed some of the only other people dumb enough to be outside on a freezing day. A young couple, probably in their 20s. The girl had green eyes and short dark brown hair, while the guy had brown eyes, blonde hair, and a knit ski cap, both wearing blue jeans and snow boots. The girl's hands were tucked deep into the pockets of a pink winter jacket, while the guy had leather gloves with a white paint stain on the thumb. Normally, I wouldn't notice any of this, but I was working hard to improve my memory skills. It had been 3 days since I had been assigned my mission, and to my surprise, most of my prep work had been memory exercises. It wasn't nearly as glamorous as learning martial arts or bomb defusing, but the Hales claimed it was even more important. A keen memory is the best weapon an agent can have, Alexander explained. Well, besides a gun, or a knife, or maybe a hand grenade. Okay, technically, there's a lot of weapons that are better than your memory, but memory is still awfully important because, nuts, I forgot what I was going to say. At this point, Cyrus had groaned and told me, if you actually succeed in getting close to Liu Shang, you're going to have to remember everything you see and hear. You can't just give me like a little spy camera and some sort of recording device? I asked. If Liu Shang catches you with either of those things, he'll kill you, Cyrus told me. This is a very convincing argument. I didn't want to be dead, so I was beefing up my memory. It had turned out to be far more work than I expected. I had been pulled out of my regular classes and placed into an intensive memory immersion course. For hours each day, I memorized random strings of numbers and decks of cards. My instructor, Professor Richmond, had walked me down the city streets and peppered me with questions about everything I had seen. What model car was parked closest to the corner? What type of earrings had a mail carrier been wearing? How many people had failed to clean up after their dogs? It seemed almost impossible at first, but I was already getting better at it, picking up things I never would have noticed about my surroundings before, like how everyone else at the zoo was dressed. Why are you staring at those people? Mike asked me. I still needed a bit of work on not being so obvious, however. I thought I recognized them, I said quickly. Mike stopped walking near a park bench where an old woman had sat. Black overcoat, red earmuffs, big hairy mole on her chin, and fixed me with a hard stare. Have you recognized a lot of people at the zoo today? Because you have been staring at everyone we've passed. No, I haven't, I said, even though I had. It occurred to me that Mike had quite strong powers of observation himself. You have so. You've been acting weird all day, even weirder than usual. Mike began ticking things off of his finger. Last time you went to Adventureland mini golf, you took after some suspicious guy and ended up burning the whole place down. On the one day you were back at school with me, you beat up Trey Patterson and 3 of his buddies and then vanished. And one time you told me to sneak into St. Smithson's and spring you for a party. I got tackled by a commando squad. They claimed it was only a training exercise, but I knew that was a bunch of bull. I realize that it all seems kind of weird, I replied, but there's a real good explanation for that. Yeah, something strange is going on at that science school. And you're wrapped up in. I said, and then no idea what to add. Mike caught me completely off guard by nailing the answer. Mike waited for 2 other zoo visitors to pass us. A mother, heavy tan parka, hiking boots, librarian glasses. And a son, blue Batman jacket, snow boots, and a river of snot running from his nose. And then whispered, they're experimenting on you, aren't they? I've been preparing myself to be accused of being a spy, so I was caught off guard yet again. What? I mean, it's science school. There's all this secrecy around it, Mike explained. So whatever they're up to, it's not kosher, right? I said, not quite sure what was going on. Maybe. So what did they do to you? Mike asked, growing intrigued. Inject you with all sorts of weird chemicals to give you incredible martial arts skills one day and hyper attentiveness the next? I was annoyed that Mike thought I was a human guinea pig. But then I remembered what was known as Delman's law of opportune aliases. If someone mistakenly assumes something about you, it's much easier to simply let them believe it than make up something else entirely. So I said, yes, I'm a human guinea pig. I knew it, Mike said so loudly he startled a passing zookeeper. Gray hair, bushy mustache. Coveralls smeared with what looked like animal poop. And then he lowered his voice again and said, "That explains everything. All your screwball behavior." "I guess," I said. "Even the commando squad," Mike pointed out. "Because of all those experiments must be top secret, right? I bet the Pentagon's involved, cooking up stuff that'll turn even guys like you into mega warriors." I should have said yes, but I didn't. I was growing too upset with the direction of this conversation had taken. Although I was under orders to protect the secrecy of spy school, I hated that Ben thought I needed a secret formula to turn me into a warrior. When I defeated Trey Patterson and Spider, I had done it all by myself. So I asked, "You suspected this whole time I was at St. Smithson's?" "Well, not the whole time. I thought it was just your standard dorky science school for a while. But after the commando attack, I got a little suspicious." "Why do you ask?" "Because when I came back to our school a few months ago, you told those girls I was training to be a spy." "I did?" Mike asked blankly. "Yes. You told Elizabeth, Kate Grant, and Chloe Appel." "Oh, right, I did. To impress them, I mean. I couldn't tell them that you were a human science experiment. That would have weirded them out. And to be honest, I was a little weirded out by it." "You're not radioactive or anything, are you?" "No," I said curtly. "So you never thought I was training to be a spy?" Mike burst out into laughter. "You, a spy? That'd be ridiculous." I decided not to push the issue any further. I had already violated a dozen secrecy protocols. And frankly, the direction of the conversation had grown more embarrassing. "Yeah," I said, faking some weak laughter. "Imagine me being a spy." "You'd be the worst," Mike snickered. "If anyone gave you a gun, you'd probably shoot yourself in the foot." I frowned, not because Mike was being insulting, but because he was right. On my first day at the school artillery range, I almost blew off my toes. I still didn't like carrying a gun on a mission. Luckily for me, no one else liked me carrying a gun either. Mike's laughter died down as we reached the elephant house. One of the elephants was actually braving the cold. Chipped left tusk, three notches in right ear, mud all over its legs. Mike stopped to watch. "So what's this ski trip really about then? Are you getting some sort of secret medication to improve your balance or to make you faster or to keep you from getting cold? That'd be pretty cool. You never need mittens." "I don't know," I said. "They never tell us anything ahead of time." "Any chance I could tag along?" "You mean to ski with us?" "Yeah, and to get superpowers." I looked at Mike curiously. "You mean you think being a guinea pig would be cool?" "Better than cool. You wiped out Trey Patterson and all his pals at school. That was amazing. Can anyone get into this program, or does everyone have to be a genius like you?" "I am not a genius, Mike." "Yes, you are. You're like Einstein when it comes to math. And I know no one gives you some super secret formula to make that happen." I found myself smiling. The direction of the conversation had gotten much better. I don't know if that had anything to do with me being picked. "Well, you could put in a good word for me at least, so I could transfer." "You mean you want to leave regular school?" "Yeah, middle school sucks." "But you're popular." "Big whoop. It's still middle school. It's not like everyone's doing any top secret experiments on me." "That's not always so awesome." "Are they working on anything with radioactive spiders so that they'll be able to shoot webs out of your wrists like Spider-Man?" "No. And so, spiders don't shoot webs from their wrists anyhow. If someone really shot webs like a spider, they would do so from their butt." "Oh," Mike said, sounding daunted, but only for a few seconds. "See? I said you were smart. I bet there's lots of other cool stuff that they're working on, like super strength or x-ray vision or teleportation or the ability to stay clean forever and never have to take a bath." "Why would the government be interested in having people stop bathing?" "Water conservation. Plus, it'd be awesome to never have to shower again. So it's a win-win for everyone. dude, you have to get me into this school. I'll try, but, or at least see if you can get me on the ski trip. If it's a cost issue, I could maybe even work out my own place to stay. I have an uncle in Colorado. I'll see what I can do, I told him, although I didn't mean it because there was no way I could get Mike enrolled in a top secret government program that didn't actually exist. I felt bad for lying to him, although part of me was strangely happy as well. Not about the lying, but the fact that, for once, Mike was jealous of me, rather than the other way around. In our entire lives, Mike had been jealous of me only one other time, and that was when he had mistakenly believed I was dating Erica Hale, a misunderstanding that I never even bothered to set straight. I was so distracted by all this, I'd forgotten about being hyper attentive, which was a big mistake because I'd missed something important, and it was going to haunt me in a big way on my mission. All right, guys, I'm going to stop there. That's 2 chapters for you guys today. Oh, Jacob, I see that you joined us in the chat. That's good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. And actually, I hope all you guys are still being safe and staying healthy during all this scary talk about COVID-19. The best thing you can do is just hunker down and stay put until we can get a handle on the virus. That's like the best advice I could give. Just as a reminder to you families, I sent you guys copies of a parent technology at home survey that the ISD needs you guys to fill out. If you guys can answer the responses on that survey and send me those responses as soon as possible, I would very much appreciate that, and I could get that back to our building's principal, Julie Van Black. Because if we have to move in the direction of doing virtual learning, we would love to know what kind of technology you have access to, how good your internet is, and if there's any way that we could help you facilitate, either if you need technology, need help with strengthening your internet or whatnot, the ISD could see how to help you. I know I'm having to ask those questions of them myself if we move in that direction to get myself set up to do that. I just want to preface it that, if we have to do this, this is going to be new for everyone. I know you guys your families might be a little nervous and anxious about what that's going to look like. Honestly, I'm in the same boat. This is something that me and my teacher colleagues that have one are going to have to figure out what would be the best fit, for our students. And I know I'm going to be practicing a lot of patience as, for myself, and I would ask patience for any families if we move in this direction that, we are all in the same boat. We are all having to learn to do this new thing during these unprecedented times. But I think these read-alouds that I've been doing, I think have been helpful. I think it's a good way to, to keep my face present for my students. And I think it's good that, we're still having a common story, and that it's something that, we can look forward to every day. It's kind of to reconnect, to kind of touch base of how we're doing and where we're at. And if you have any needs or concerns, you can share them with me, and I can pass them up the chain to see if we could get that resolved. I think that, we'll know more in the next couple days. I know Governor Whitmer will be making an announcement about schools sometime this week. And as soon as she makes that announcement, I'd know staff at Haviland, we're supposed to connect. And as soon as, we get things ironed out, we will definitely be sharing that information with you families as soon as possible. But unfortunately, I don't have that information with me, as we're still waiting to hear what the state wants us to do. So we're kind of in that waiting pattern of, waiting for what the decision's going to be, and then how do we move forward. Do you guys have any other questions, comments, or concerns? Anything that you want to share of, how are you guys keeping each other entertained, or how are you guys keeping the learning going at home? I would love to hear about it. I would say if you guys could do me a favor, you guys have talked about how these spy school books would be really good movies. I think a cool activity you guys could do, and I would love to see them. Why don't you guys create your own movie poster for like Evil Spy School? You guys could decide how you would, if this is going to be a movie, how would you sell it to the public to come to the movie theater if our movie theaters were open to go see a movie? I would love to see what you guys come up with for like movie posters for Evil Spy School. I'd love to see that. That'd be kind of a cool activity, I think, from you guys to see what happens. I think I'm going to sign off now. I know that I'm going to continue doing these read-alouds. I think I'm going to shoot for doing them roughly at the same time every day. But granted, I have to share my Wi-Fi with someone else that I live with that is also working from home currently. So it might fluctuate when I do it, but I do plan to go live every weekday this week. So keep checking Dojo. I will keep posting there. I will also, if I am able, I will post also on my teacher Facebook page if that is also something you guys are checking. But I know most of you are on Dojo and are on there and interacting with me. I will definitely make my first post there. So, share with me what you guys are doing at home. I'd love to hear how you guys are keeping busy. I could share, some of the things that I'm doing. We're all in this together. We're all kind of in quarantine right now. And I think it's good if, we share what are we doing? How are we getting through this? What are some of the positive things that we're looking forward to? I'd love to hear about it, and I'll share some of mine. So I will see you guys on the next stream. Stay safe, stay healthy.